constant tourists that are there all the time, it can be overbearing. I mean, even if someone's in a small town, they look outside and they're like, hey, why are so many people driving down the road?
In 2005, the number of people that would travel in general was 800 million. End of 2025, it was 1.5 billion.
And you're thinking 20 years in the past. I mean, I remember back in the day, like in the 90s, we would just go backpacking and literally you would just show up at a hotel and be like, hey, you got space? When you look at it in terms of the influencers, not a lot of them are going to those secondary markets and those tertiary markets.
What is actually the solution? That's the question people want to know, really, the answer to.
Hey there, fellow travelers. Mark here with Wolters World, or I should say the Honest Travel Podcast by Wolters World with my buddy Shebs. And today we're going to talk about, we're really going to dive deeper into the idea of over-tourism, but what are communities doing to combat over-tourism, but also what we as fellow travelers can do to be better tourists so we don't have as much of an impact when we go to some of these communities. So my buddy Shebs is here. And Shebs, how you been? It's been a month since we've been together.
Great to see you, Mark. Always great to see you. And also fantastic to have that first podcast come out, and it was great. We're going to be discussing some of your comments, and hopefully you guys leave a comment on this episode as well. As you can see from the last podcast, I'm wearing a sweater. You're wearing a sweater as well because it's a storm where you are. At least it's not as cold as where you are right now.
So yesterday and last night, the wind chill was minus 25 Fahrenheit, which is like minus 31 Celsius. So it was actually a bit chilly. We've got about 10 centimeters of snow outside with another like 10 centimeters coming. So it's a little winter wonderland out there.
In the UK, Europe, we don't really necessarily have the infrastructure, but in the US, Canada, North America, you guys have the infrastructure to sort of say, right, okay, let's get this moving. And does the flight go on?
Yeah. Well, a lot of them do, but it really depends where you are. Like we're here in Illinois and we have the snow plows and the salt and the sand, like so people can go. I mean, we've literally, you might hear plows going by outside my house that are cleaning off the road. So Illinois, Minnesota, like states that have like wintry weather, they're usually fine relatively quickly. Like if you're in Minneapolis, snow doesn't stop anything there. But like my wife was in Georgia and we had to actually fly her home a couple days early because she know if they get even like a little smidgen of ice or a little bit of snow, they don't have the infrastructure to take care of it. So everything shuts down for like multiple days. That's why you see those on the TV, they'll show the grocery store is completely empty. Like everyone bought all the milk and bread possible. Like, are you going to drink 9 gallons of milk in the next 3 days? I mean, maybe, but.
Well, it's funny because you messaged me saying, I need to go get some milk and bread. I've completely forgotten. I was like, we're going to have to go to the gas station because you're probably not going to find any of it in the stores.
And I did, which was funny. I had to go to 3 gas stations to get everything I needed because the grocery store was insane. But it was funny because like, I wasn't going because of the snow. I was going because we were literally out of milk and bread because it was like, oh, it's like usually we go grocery shopping like Fridays and Saturdays or whatever. So it was kind of funny that way. Anyway, let's get on to over-tourism because you were at a conference that really focused on over-tourism, sustainable travel. And I think these are some really good things we need to talk about, whether it's for London or anywhere around the world that's going to be things people are going to be seeing.
So I was one of the speakers actually. So there was a thing on over-tourism, sustainability, it all sort of comes in hand. And what can be done? What are the industry makers, people that do the marketing, what exactly are they doing to help it? When I first started solo traveling in 2005, the number of people that would travel in general was 800 million. End of 2025, it was 1.5 billion. So that is a staggering
a double increase.
And I can give you an example, Mark. Back in 2006, I don't know if you're a golf fan or not, but the British Open came to where I live. We've got because British Open tends to sort of move around for the golf, and we had it in our area. And I live in a small town, so we had the whole world come to our little area. And I remember my dad used to have a restaurant back then, and it was just too much. So just imagine that constantly throughout the day, throughout the night. You can't really handle it. Do you remember back in the summer of last year where there was protest in Barcelona, Spain, because they had too much tourists?
They've had the protest for a number of years now.
My example would be, I want to come to New York. Well, I wanted to go to New York when I was young, but you don't think of anything else. I really appreciated when you came to the UK, you came to places like Liverpool, you came to my little small town as well, and you also went to Chester to help people sort of navigate outside of London. What is your thought process on what could be done to help it?
Well, I know from my perspective, there's a lot of issues because it's not just the tourists that are, I mean, yes, the lot constant tourists that are there all the time, it can be overbearing. I mean, even if someone's in a small town, they look outside and they're like, hey, why are so many people driving down the road? I mean, anytime there's an increase in people going around, people notice it, right? And if you have that constantly and you're thinking 20 years in the past, I mean, I remember back in the day, like in the 90s, we would just go backpacking and literally you would just show up at a hotel and be like, hey, you got space? And you literally always have something. Now, there's cities, if you don't book like weeks in advance, you get nothing. So there's this whole idea that it's just like almost too much. And I think one of the important things with over tourism is a lot of it comes down to people are upset with housing because it's not necessarily, I mean, some of it, yes, there's a lot of tourists that are there, but a lot of it also is what has happened to the, like infrastructure. Like people don't have a place to live. Like I lived in Lisbon and you could get a nice apartment downtown, like downtown, for like 750 euros a month, and you live like a king. And now those things rent out for that for a weekend. So all these owners have turned their apartments, yearly apartment rentals into weekend rentals, and they're making more money sometimes they were before. And literally in Lisbon, where all my friends used to live downtown, I have one friend that still lives in the city only because there's no metro stop near them, but they're thinking about putting one in there. So he's kind of like, well, I know in about 5 years I'm going to have to move because it's going to be too expensive. And so the affordable housing has disappeared because someone has gone to these Airbnbs and it's not just Airbnb, VRBOs, apartment rental things. And I think also you look at it in terms of the purchasing of the things. It's not, a lot of times it's not locals that are purchasing up these apartments in order to be, rentals for people living there. It's specifically for, vacation rentals. And that in itself is like killing communities because you go to someplace like you go to Bruges. Bruges, you go and literally at 8 o'clock at night, everything's rolled up, everything's closed because Bruges in Belgium is a beautiful city. It is a fairy tale city. I recommend people going there because it's so beautiful, but it's not a living city. It's a tourist city. Whereas you go to Ghent, Ghent still has about, over 50% of the downtown is actually locals living there. And they're kind of happy. They have this one really ugly building like in right next to the historic center. And like, oh, that's why your center can't be UNESCO because you have this ugly building, like new building there. And they're like, hey, we're kind of happy with that because then we don't have to be all in on that. We don't have to have that. And so you have these communities that just kind of disappeared where the locals couldn't be there. So you have a lot of anger about people not being able to afford homes and young people as well, not being able to get in apartments and stuff. And so that's a big factor in there. But then also the number of tourists that are coming in. And I think one of the big influences, and I mean, this is one of those things I feel bad, because technically I'm an influencer, right? There is the idea of the influencer is getting people to go. And the thing is, when you're looking at TikTok and Instagram and YouTube shorts, those little short, like 30-second hits, every place can look fantastic. So they can make a city look wonderful. I've got to get that picture because from Key West in Florida to Austin, Texas, to, places in Europe, there's always the shot, right, that everyone wants to get. And so that drives a lot of tourism just for that shot. And what's bad is a lot of times these people just go for that shot. Remember, was it Shawshasen or like in Morocco, the Blue City in Morocco? A few years ago, that was the thing. Everybody had to go there because they want to get pictures in the Blue City. But the thing is, they'd come and get their pictures of the Blue City, but they weren't exploring the whole city, right? They're just getting the blue and then they go. And I think that's one of the things. It's kind of like the one-use throwaway society of tourism sometimes. And that's where we try to get people to do more. Like, look, you can do it. And I'm not saying don't be a tourist. I'm not saying go to Key West and don't go to the Blue City in Morocco, but go and explore more. Go find these other cities. Because as great as London is, I mean, I was there 2 weeks ago. There's other places like going to Chester, going to York, going to Liverpool, going to anywhere in the Midlands, go to the Cotswolds, which are very busy in the summertime, but there's so many other places you can go. But the thing is, when you look at it in terms of the influencers, not a lot of them are going to those secondary markets and those tertiary markets. They're staying in the big cities, which drives it in. And I've seen this firsthand in Greece. So I was there 2 summers ago. We had friends that ran apartment rentals. They had like 40 apartment rentals on Crete. And I'm thinking, oh, it must be booming business because I see all these people in Athens, Mykonos, and Santorini. And they're like, yeah, but all the influencers show the sunrise here. They show the Acropolis. They show the White House, the blue domes. And so everybody's going to Athens, Mykonos, Santorini, and people aren't going other places. So our friends actually quit. They quit, like they've been there for like 15 years, like doing this. And they were like, look, we usually go through October. We're going to leave the end of August because no one was staying there. Nobody was going to these secondary markets. They're just going to the main ones that the influencers were saying to go to, and that was it. And people missed out. Like we were in Nafplio, the old capital of Greece. It was amazing. Like it was like traveling back in the early 2000s because there was no tourists there. The only tourists that were there were like Greek Americans that are coming back to see their Yaya and Papu that still live in Greece, right? And so it was really interesting to see that. So if you go out and just go away from like where the influencers are, like the big city kind of stuff, you can see so much. Like we drove from Poland to Albania last summer. Not once did the word over tourism or lots of tourists or oh my gosh, look at all these tourists ever come up. You know, and that was in peak season, we're talking June, July, right? And so that's just it. It's like if you can get away from that and spread it out, and I think that's what some communities are trying to do. Like, you know, Amsterdam, like they've really, like you say, you know, they've really gone kind of against the bro tourism, right? And so you're seeing communities that are trying to push back some of these things, but it's not that they don't want tourism. They don't want certain kind of tourism. They like, sadly, a lot of them are like, hey, if you're poor, don't come, which is really mean because I think everybody from every demographic has the right to go visit a place. But places like Amsterdam and other places are really trying to encourage only like high spenders to visit. And that's a whole other debate out there. But there's a lot of things going on.
They've done the Stay Away campaign in Amsterdam to sort of get people away from the area, get people to do other areas. The funny thing is, we spoke about Barcelona, parts of I think Madrid was another place that had the protest. Since they've had those protests and people saw it on TV, it did keep away the tourists. And I saw something in the news that they were asking for some of the tourists to come back because it yes, they didn't want over tourism, but they didn't say stop tourism. They didn't say don't come. It was just the influx of people that were coming in. And solo travel actually is something that might benefit. I know the stats from when I first started traveling, 2005, it was very low. We're talking 5% under, but now more and more people travel. I think I've got a stat here that I can tell you over the last 50, well, no, not 50, 20 years, sorry, I should say. A lot of females in America. I'm not too sure why but it says here 69% of females travel solo, at least. So that's a quite a high number. Now, I don't know why that, actually, it's not 69, 72% of women, 69 of all US travelers have planned a trip solo 24 and 25. Solo travel is something that you do because if you think about it, you've got family, but you do travel a lot alone, don't you, for work purposes and whatnot. I know in Venice, they started charging people, well, they call it a city tax, where it's €6, €7, sorry, I should say, or coming up to 10 euros.
Depending on the day and the time of the year, yeah.
The weekend is more expensive, so Friday, Saturdays, Sundays are more expensive. The Mayor of London, towards the end of last year, has decided to put on well, they call it like a city tax. So if people are coming in, they're going to have to pay tax to it. I know in the US, you kind of have that already to an extent, don't you? In different parts of different states have it, different areas will have it, but is tax the way forward, do you think? Is that one way of doing it? Or is there other ways to solo travel? Is that what we should really push? Because then it sort of leaves out the family market, then it leaves out group markets. What is actually the solution? That's the question people want to know, really, the answer to.
I don't think there's one silver bullet. I mean, the solo travel thing is also a factor of society in general. People they're getting married later in life, or they're not getting married at all. They're waiting to have kids. So you have very much a different thing. And you definitely have much more of a me first generation. So I'm gonna go travel. And I have a lot of friends that they're married and they'll go travel on their own. But like for me, I always want to take my family with me. Like that makes it much more rewarding. But I look at it, hotels, they would love that. Yeah, come a single person, you have to stay in a double room. We're gonna sell a lot more stuff. But then think about the, you know, sustainability impact of that now. So all these solo travelers coming from all these places, they're driving in versus a family, we can double it up. So there's a lot of things go into it. That is one of those things. If you have a smaller footprint, it's just you, it's a lot easier to blend in. It's a lot easier to look like a local. Because when you've got, you know, a tour group of, you know, 20, 30 people on a bus, or you have a cruise ship with 3,000 people, you know, that is impossible. Like that is like a wave of stuff you just can't handle. You know, it's kind of like here in the US, you know, Halloween. Yeah, I mean, I get like one person knocking on my door a week, but on Halloween, I get like 300 people coming. I couldn't do that all the time. Right. And so I can see the one every so often kind of thing working.
Well, it's exhausting, isn't it? If 300 people knock on your door, it's exhausting.
And that's just it. The people are exhausted. You like, think about it, you go to work and every day you go to work, you're bumping into somebody because they're taking a picture. You're bumping into somebody because they don't know, like you go to London, people get so mad at the tourists because they don't know how to like tap in with the tube. I'm like, just use your tap and go credit card and you're in and out, you're good. But people get confused there. And like if locals like, I gotta get to work. And so you have that these little frustrations. It's like anything, like the old saying, the straw that broke the camel's back. It's just these little things like that kind of add up. That's when you get the people in Barcelona, like with the water gun saying, go home and stuff like that. But I think in terms of taxing as a solution, taxing is never like, let's be honest, taxing is not going to deter people. Look, I'm going to spend $1,000 to fly to Barcelona. Do you think another $3 or €3 or €5 tax is going to stop me from going?
Mm.
No, it is not. It's not going to stop the people. Like that's the thing for the higher end, more higher paying travelers. It's not going to stop them at all. But for these communities, they want the higher end ones because they're going instead of going to the hostel, that is like €20 a night, or the Airbnb that might be illegal that isn't paying any taxes. Now, hey, they're going to be going to hotels. We're going to be making that tax money. They're going to stay at nicer hotels, not the €20 hostel. They're staying at the €200 hotel. That's a lot more tax money we can make it. And that's why, some cities have like the per person tax, like, oh, it's like €1 a day or €2 a day. Others, they have the percentage tax on the stay. And that's one of those things that if you do the percentage tax, hey, the nicer they stay, the more money we make. So it's ways that communities can like make income in order to pay for it, the damage to the roads and the extra security we need. I mean, the police officers you need to be watching the museums, or like if you're in Amsterdam with the tourists that get too high and fall into the canal, like you have to have money to pay for these things. And if tourists are coming in and they're not putting money into the community, then like they're just taking from it. And that's why I remember back when I lived in Finland, they hated the German tourists because the German tourists they'd bring their camper van up to Finland. They take the ferry up on the German line. They get off. They'd bring all their food with them. They'd have a full tank of gas when they get there. They'd have all their food. So they just go around and they're like, the only thing they do is steal our moose signs. And so, but that was just it. They weren't good. It wasn't. You don't want that kind of tourist because they're not putting anything back. And I think that's one of those things. If we're putting things back into the community, that's a difference. That's why what I say to people is like, look, if you want, I mean, I've never been harassed for over tourism. I go around and I took students. I had 20 some students. We were in Barcelona during the protest a few years ago, and we were there for 10 days I was teaching a class there. And my students were meeting the locals at the local festivals, going to local shops, restaurants. Nobody had any problems because we were staying at a hotel. We were going to local restaurants. We were going to local shops. We weren't going to the big box store or the fast fashion places, right? We were actually helping out the community. We were going where the community was going, out into the neighborhoods. And that was like kind of cool. It was like, oh, you're out here. What are you doing out in our neighborhood? Kind of thing. Like that made it more of a spread it out, made it a lot more doable and a lot less impactful on that one area. Like if you're just on La Rambla, it's insane. But if you go to other parts.
About the tax thing, because when I look at the percentage, so the London's sort of suggesting 3%, and it will help the economy grow by 350, well, it'll bring in £350 million. That is, I don't know, in dollars, it'll be like 500 or something like that.
It's a bajillion,
It's quite, but if there was, because I've been to other parts of the world, like Cambodia, and they have city tax already to help their economy. And by the way, the budget for a lot of these industry makers is getting smaller and smaller and smaller because they're not seeing their returns, probably because people are exhausted of seeing places like Santorini being advertised. What's new? So they know this. They know they're going to go back. They don't need to see it again. They don't need to see it advertised again. So what things need to be, that's one of the questions that I asked. Can we do something different to help out, spread the joy? You also sort of mentioned about communities going away from London. I'm from London and I don't live in London anymore because, well, the rush hour, you've been to London, that rush hour where you're trying to get the train, it's you've got someone else's armpit in your face. When I go on a train here in rush hour, no problem. I can get a seat, relax, listen to my music or whatever, read a book. For the listeners listening, they shouldn't necessarily feel guilty of coming to London or going to New York. It's just a mindset of, okay, what can we do differently? I think you were talking about, before we came on air, you were talking about maybe doing the things that the locals do or something specific. So give us a bit more insight on what you meant by that.
So the things you do with the locals, one of the big things that'll help you fit in a lot faster is just look at the locals and watch them and see how they do things. Because that's just it. As long as people are doing the same thing, because that's what's great about this global world we have, anybody can be from anywhere. You know what I mean? Like you could, like anybody can be from New York, anybody can be from London, anybody could be living in, Santiago, Chile. As long as you kind of do what the locals do, that helps you fit in. And just watching, like, how do they order their coffee? Like, do they stand at the bar or do they sit down? Like, when they're are they going out to eat at 7 at night? Or are they going at 5 p.m.? Like little things this you start to observe when you're there. You're like, oh, I see. So in the morning, you're not doing the big breakfast thing. You're just having like a little coffee and you're in your go. But then I notice they have like these 3 hour lunches. Okay. And you start to blend in better. That's going to help you blend in as one of the locals. So therefore they don't have that, kind of negative vibe against you. And another thing is like one of the things we've tried to do over the years is we go to like those smaller towns, the Chesters out there, like we're going to, like we go to Santiago, Chile, but we go to the Atacama Desert. We'll go to Valparaiso, another city. Here in the U.S., we'll do New York and New Orleans, but we'll get, Savannah, which is now a totally up and coming place, or we'll go to like Indianapolis, another place they're going. So we give people those options. And I see one of the things out there is like the algorithms do not push those smaller towns. Like if I make videos about, London or Paris, Milan, like Rome, those places, I know, hey, they're not all the time, but they're probably going to do a lot better than I do a video. Like I have a video on Lille, France. I was just in Lille and I was filming there. And I know my don'ts of Lille, it will never do well because it's a smaller town. So people don't even hear about these destinations. That's why I like making those things, because they might not get a ton of views, but the people that watch them, like, oh, thank goodness you have a video in a place that no one else does. You have good information on that. And so that's what we try to do. You'll find that over tourism isn't really a big issue in those places.
When I first came to the States, I went to New York, stayed there for a while. When I came back to the States after that, I went to other parts of the United States, because I thought, well, what else is out there? From what I can see from the discussion points that I've had with people, the industry leaders and whatnot, and going to conferences and speaking in conferences, it's a topic that's going to go on and on and on. And I want people to comment and give us ideas on what you think, and give us your opinion as well, because we can go off it, because this isn't a topic that we're not going to cover again. It's going to be an ongoing.
This issue isn't going to go away,
and it's a slowly thing, isn't it? For places that start to hit up, people start going there. Antarctica at the moment, by the way, more and more people are going to Antarctica. 5-6 years ago, no one was going to Antarctica. Now all of a sudden everyone's going to Antarctica, and it's cheap to go there.
I remember this is like in the late 90s. I was living in Argentina and I had opportunity to go there. And it's like, oh, it's like partly submarine based. It's only $10,000. Like $10,000 in 1998 is like what, like $50,000 now, And so, but now it's like, oh, I could go to Hawaii or I could go to Antarctica. It's like the prices come down.
One of my friends went, and it was like $3,000. I'm like, wow. $3,000 to go to Antarctica, and you were saying 1998 was $10,000. So
yeah, when you had to get down to Ushuaia, you had to get down to the south on your own. So we're talking from going from Ushuaia down. Like, so there was no, fly down to Buenos Aires, then to go to Ushuaia or Tierra del Fuego and go from there. And that's just it. I mean, you see these things out there, how some things that used to be or incredibly expensive and become more affordable. And that's another thing we look at, like the over tourism thing, is the boom in the low cost carriers. And this is something I do. I mean, I'll joke about the Ryanairs and all these things, but I'll be honest, they've made travel available to everyone. Like I remember when I first started doing the traveling stuff in the 90s. I mean, I would work all summer to save up money so I could go travel, see my girlfriend in Germany. Right? Yeah, but I mean, I had to work all summer to do that. But no, not everybody could, because it was expensive and stuff. I mean, heck, it was more expensive for me to fly to Germany in 1996 than it is for me to fly to Germany now. I mean, that's just it. I'm like, all of a sudden things became affordable, and I love that. That's why I love making our videos. Like, if you didn't know, we have our logo, our logo here with the train on there. You know why it's that? Because it doesn't matter if you're rich, poor, man, woman, whatever, everybody takes the train. And that's the thing, is everybody can travel. And those cheap airlines made it so people could travel again.
I think around 2018-19, it was cheaper for me to fly to Barcelona, spend a couple of days there, than to take a train up to Scotland, because I wanted to go to Edinburgh. But I found it cheaper to go to Barcelona, fly back through Edinburgh, and it cost around about £100 to fly through Barcelona, stay there, come through Edinburgh and take a flight back to where I am. But the train ticket alone was 120 to Edinburgh.
Oh, I know, it was insane. I know.
So it makes sense for me to go to Barcelona, doesn't it? The UK has a problem anyway with its train. It's just so expensive. But in general, though, I was going to say as well, countries that not necessarily, we just talked about flights and air carriers becoming more and more cost effective. But the thing is, countries where people didn't necessarily ever travel, now can afford to travel because places like India, China, all these people are now starting to travel a bit more. I don't remember 20, 30 years ago, people traveling from those parts of the world. Now you're seeing them go all, this is what I think has caused the boom, because it's gone from 800 million to 1.5 billion a year, because you're getting those people coming from those parts of the world now, which is, I suppose, a good thing, but also is it a bad thing?
That's where I get upset with some of these anti-tourism programs, because it really is them targeting, they just want rich people to go. And you know what? Not everybody's rich, but everybody deserves to see beauty. And
Yeah.
for some people, it's their only one trip. That, like my aunt, she went to Europe once in her life. Like I was blessed to be able to take her and my uncle and show them around some places. Like this is in the '90s, and it was just like, for her, she's still around, and we still talk about it. It's been 30 years, but it's like that impact that travel can have on people. Like I want everybody to have that, and that's why I thank the low cost carriers for that. But I also can understand the locals, like, hey, but I'm overrun here. The global middle class has grown quite a bit. I was backpacking South America and Europe in the '90s, and the only, like, when you'd see like non North American or non European travelers would be groups of Japanese like tour groups. That was it. Like there wasn't, you didn't see Indian tour groups, you didn't see Brazilian tour groups, nothing like that. Now when I travel around, heck, everywhere I go, I bump into solo Brazilian travelers going around. I'm like, oh, we watch your videos, because I guess Brazil loves me.
Yeah, yeah,
It's funny
yeah,
because like every time I go, I always bump into Brazilians at train station. And you see these things out there, and you see people from all over that are traveling, which I think is cool. But you have to think about it as for communities. How do we make it so people that live here can enjoy, but also the visitor can enjoy it? And I think
yeah.
that's a discussion we need to have. And in terms of, is it you limit the space? Like, is there's not hotel rooms, there's not hotel rooms. With Barcelona eliminating, those apartment rentals, the Airbnb kind of things, but was it 2028, I think? They're supposed to be, getting rid of those. That will change how things are, just because there's nowhere to stay. Just there's the supply and demand, but I mean that means the hotels can charge a lot more. I remember seeing this in other places where, like, the law of supply and demand finds things, right? And when I lived in Lisbon, there were hardly any good hotels. And so when Lisbon became the best, weekend destination in Europe multiple years in a row, there was nowhere for people to go, but they started having these hostels. So all these hostels started popping up, and they were really good hostels, but there was no like middle class, high end hotels or anything like that. And so over time, people just started putting out their apartments to Airbnb because, hey, I can make literally in 1 month, I can make as much as I could in a year at my job, renting out my place in the summer. But then all these Airbnbs are I don't want to be bad on Airbnb, but these apartment rentals popped up because there was nowhere else to go. Like the first, I lived there for 5 years for my PhD. And when we left, when we come back, I couldn't find a place for the four of us. Like we had a baby and a 4-year-old, and I'm like, hey, we want to go back and visit, and we couldn't find places that could put us all together. You're going to have to get 2 rooms. What little kid is going to be in a different room than their mama? And so now only after this boom, and people are like, what's going on? Now there's plenty of hotels. Like Lisbon's got some good middle class hotels now, but it took them 10 years, 15 years to get there. That's one of those things like, hey, Barcelona, if you're going to get rid of these Airbnbs, where is the investment in the hotel infrastructure that's out there? Because let's be honest, Barcelona, even though Catalonia is the strongest economic part of Spain, tourism is like their biggest business or one of their biggest businesses. And you can't, it's not like you can, it's like a family. If one of the parents loses a job, it's not like they're going to continue on the same way. That's a huge income, like now. So there's a lot of things that go into it, because there are some things that people can do to kind of not negate your impact, but like maybe bring it down a bit. Like I was saying, see what the locals do. One thing I would say, eat when the locals eat, eat what the locals eat, those kind of things. You're going to be blending in better. There's also the other things. Help out the local community, like shop in the local boutiques. And I'm not saying the high-end boutiques. I'm just the local shops. When you're buying things there, when you're buying clothes there, one, you have clothes that are from there, so you blend in. But also, when you go home, let's be honest. How many of you got your pen that you got at your destination at or you got your little spoon or something? Like, how many of you are really going to be using that again? But you get that outfit from there. You're spending more money than a pen, than a little souvenir, but it's something people are, oh, well, that's a cool outfit. Where'd you get that? Oh, yeah, when I was in Beijing, I had it made for me. Oh, yeah, when I was in Ghent, I got this sweater. I'm like, oh, that's cool. Like you have something there that's gonna make it better for you, in terms of kind of like the blending in. Like we talked about this before, realizing that it's okay to be a tourist. I see these Instagrammers who's like, tourists go to Paris, travelers go to Bordeaux. I'm like, Pompous prick says pompous prick. No, tourists and travelers go to Paris, and tourists and travelers both go to Bordeaux. It's okay to be both of them. Like, that's what I want people to feel ashamed for, because we are all tourists. You're not from there, so technically you are a tourist, right? If you don't want to upset the locals, stay at hotels. Right there is the biggest thing, because if we can get the homes and apartments back to the people, that's going to bring a lot of the tensions down. Because if you don't have a place to live, like, you're going to be upset. You got a place to live, then I can worry about something else.
You try and do touristy stuff very early, get it out of the way, and then you can just sort of blend in, because then you're not like constantly taking photos and bumping into people and asking people questions. And also, by the way, one of the things I've noticed, and it's not a mark on any of the Americans, but when a lot of Americans travel and you hear them, you can hear them literally because
What?
they're very loud.
What do you mean?
Yes, exactly. That's the thing. You can hear them. Why not quieten down? When you say blend in, really blend in. So if you go to China, for example, hardly anyone's talking because they're walking by trying to go. But if you're really loud, they're going to hear you, aren't they? If you're seeing them act a certain way, mimic them. That's what I say. If you're going on because I know this, I'm sure you know this as well, in parts of Asia, like Singapore, you can't eat on their metro system or the subway. You just don't eat. And so I remember first time I went there, I was drinking my water, and she said to me, "Oh, excuse me," and she had the guts to say this, and they look after their environment. "Sorry, you can't drink here." I was like, "Oh, I'm really sorry. I didn't realize this." So make sure you understand, because you don't want them to go, "Oh my goodness, another tourist here, not really respecting our sort of rules here." So that is the most important thing. So make sure you follow the rules, and this is the do's and don'ts, because it will help you blend in as a tourist. I think that's the most important thing.
And you really said the right word: respect. You respect the culture you're in, you respect the people, and people don't get upset. And that's everywhere. Everyone expects respect. And so just give people the respect they deserve. All right, let's look at some of our comments that we got from last time. Some of our members and stuff. Congrats on the first episode. You could absolutely make it longer, and I wouldn't mind. I'm used to podcasts going 45 minutes to an hour without them feeling too long. I think that's one thing we might consider in the future, but one of our goals was to have this in a compact kind of thing. So you can put it on when you're going to go walk the dog. It's like you get the main stuff out. They get your 30-minute walk. Brig gets his walk in. You get your travel fix in. Here's Shebs, here me.
I saw a podcast the other day, because I've been watching a lot of podcasts. Some 2.5 hours, that's a long time to have a podcast out, and some people have that time, but majority of people who work, family, they just don't have that time. So we thought half an hour is a good time, and I know a lot of people in the comments were saying 45 minutes would be great, an hour, I don't mind, but we're trying to find the right medium. We thought half an hour is a good amount of time, but you let us know.
No, and this gives the time to just focus on one topic. Like, we'll probably do this like hoping on our future episodes, we're gonna have a special guest. We're gonna talk about Japan and really focus on like just that, so that it could be a robust episode that you can go back to and watch on that topic, where it's just focused on that, And I think that's one of the things that could be really helpful. But another thing, Sarah Phillips, another fantastic fellow traveler, I think it'd be interesting to talk about the reality of travel. You can see people's vlogs and everything looks like it runs smoothly and everything's magical, but that's not always the case. But I think that's one of those things when we talk, we'll probably do an episode on the truths and fictions of travel vlogs and Instagrammers and influencers, because there are the things like, they're like Shebs was saying, do the tour stuff in the morning, enjoy the city in the afternoon like a local. I actually film super early in the morning. Like when the sun comes up, I'm out filming so I can get things done, because then I had the chance to go see stuff. Because I tried to film during the day, it'd be a disaster. People all around walking in front. And so we can talk about we'll definitely talk about those things from, what do you do when you don't pre-book those tickets for sites, or you can't get it, it's a weekend in Paris and you didn't make a reservation. Like, what are you going to do? So we will talk about some of those things for sure. News. Hey, don't forget ETA, the electronic travel authorization for the UK, end of February, this goes full effect. If you do not do this beforehand, I have a video that's coming out. It's probably out by the time you see this, which is going the step-by-step thing. But you always want to go to gov.uk/ETA, ETA. You do not need to have anybody do it for you. Why pay people an extra £50 or $50 or €50 for something you can do on your own? You can get the app on the App Store, or they're on Google or Android. Get those, and that basically what it is: at least 72 hours before you go to the UK, before you depart, you need to apply. and then it'll basically be linked up to your passport saying, hey, this passport can come in. It's valid for 2 years. Unless you get a new passport, you have to get a new one. So want to make sure I got that out there for our last little news bit. Shebs, my buddy.
In the US, for any Brits, you have to get an ESTA, so similar time frames, 2 years. So make sure you do get this, because it's important, because ever since I suppose the Brexit that happened back in 2016, things have changed, and if you don't get this, then you will be. There's also another way of drumming up money for the government as well, by the way.
The ESTA program in the US last year was $21. Now it's like $40, so yeah. And some visas are going to get a lot more expensive in the US, but I know like the ETIS system that's coming for Schengen European Union at the end of supposed to come in 2026. I'm sure their price will rise soon enough anyway, whenever it comes out. So anyway, Shebs, anything you want to say before we take off?
You tell us in the comments what you want, because we will do whatever you guys want, really. And it's great. So a lot of you are patrons as well, are members. Do join up, because there'll be lots of benefits for you guys as well. So it helps us grow, and also those comments are valuable. The comments and your love that you give us helps, because it helps me sort of go to these conferences. I do get hired to go to these conferences and talk about it and say, I'm talking to real people here, real people who travel. And the reason why they want this is because they tell us. So I love it. I love those comments. Keep it coming in.
Please do subscribe. A special thank you to our members on YouTube and our patrons on Patreon who help make these things possible as we make these videos. And a big thanks to my buddy Shebs for hopping on today. Because
thank you so much again.
Yeah, because we're from like trying to get our schedules together too. Because if we had to do a 2-hour podcast, I don't think we both have the time to spend 2 hours at the same time. It would be like, okay, I can do 3 o'clock in the morning on a Wednesday, and you can do it here, so it works out. Because we are half the world away, but we are too good. Great to see you, bud. And please again, subscribe, leave your comments down below with your questions. Go to patreon.com/WoltersWorld to see how you can help support us or become a member here on YouTube. We really appreciate it. And you can watch this podcast. Let's do it. All those fun podcast places. Anyway, I wish you all the best. I'll say bye. And Shebs, you want to say bye and lead us out?
Thank you very much. And we'll see you in the next episode. And leave your comments and like and subscribe. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Bye, y'all.